Okay, hello everybody. Today we're talking about expanding the basic phrase. And when we're talking about expanding the basic phrase, we have to include 6/4 chords. 6/4 chords are the second inversion of a triad, right? We know that the first instance of a triad is root position, that's 5/3. The the first inversion is 6, understand the 3, and then the second inversion is going to be the 6/4. We've learned about the existence of 6/4 chords, the fact that the intervals above a second inversion triad are going to be a 6 and a 4, but these chords have a very, very special function. They don't function like the root position and the first inversion counterparts. They have very specially identified functions, and we're going to talk about at least 3 different versions of them today. There are others, but these are the 3 big ones that you're going to see on the AP exam. Now, as far as 6/4 chords go, the labeling, you can always label it as a 6/4, but because they have special functions, they are going to take on kind of a special label for each. The other thing about these is that there's very specific voice leading patterns and specific doubling patterns. And so where in a root position chord or a first inversion chord, in a triad anyway, you might double the root. In this case, we're always doubling the bass, which is the 5th of the chord. That's weird. That is, and again, that is going to reinforce a different function than if we were just doing the regular root position or first inversion. Okay, so let's talk about the first kind of big one for 6/4 chords, the cadential 6/4. Okay, sometimes called a CAD 6/4, sometimes it's a C6/4. And there are even a couple of other ways to go about doing this. So with cadential 6/4 chords, what you want is to make sure that you're always coming from a dominant chord. Okay, or not from, sorry, to a dominant chord. The 6/4 chord comes on the beat. Okay, it's a dissonance, it's considered a dissonance that comes on the beat, and then we resolve into a dominant chord, and then the dominant chord actually resolves completely into another tonic chord. So just as an example, let's take B flat. Okay, and do this. And the beginning of our measure here, we know that our regular 1 chord, okay, the cadential 6/4 is a 1/6/4, okay. All right. We know that that's going to be B flat chord. So B flat, D, and F, and we know we want to put F in the bass, right? Because again, second inversion. And then we know we're also going to want to double the F. So I'm actually going to stack a chord up here. So our D, I'm going to put the F up here and B flat. Okay, so there is like by itself just a 1/6/4 chord. First, tonic chord in second inversion. What we need to do with a cadential 6/4 chord is we need to go to a 5 chord. Okay. Now, our 5th scale degree here is already in the bass, right? That's why I wrote it as a half note. So we're going to just let it continue. And in fact, maybe to be ultimately very, very, very clear, let's rewrite this as a quarter and another quarter note. Oops. Hello. Something happened to my writing tool. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. And we can just tie them like that. What we need is to go to a 5/3, or sorry, a 5 triad or 7th. Actually, we could do a 7th. Let's make this fun and go to a 7th chord. Okay, so we don't have any awkward doublings. So what we want is to do F, A, C, and then E flat, right? So from this cadential 6/4 chord, we're going to have everything move by step. All right, so we're going to move maybe our E flat here, and a C here, and here's an A. Okay, so there we have our 5-7 chord. Now, if this wasn't a 7, let's just assume we were just going to do a triad. Obviously, this F could just stay, right? That doubling is fine because in a root position triad, we would want to double the root, and that would then be the root of our chord. Okay, so let me get another color here so I can show you the motion that makes this a very specific kind of event. Okay, and again, the 7th moves down also, but in terms of the triad moving to triad, the cadential 6/4 is really characterized by these like kind of double suspended notes that are moving down over the bass that holds. So that's our cadential 6/4 chord. And let me bring up another color. Let's see here. So that I can show you a different way to write the notation underneath. So we said this is a 1-6-4 and it is going to a 5-7 in this case. I wrote the 7th, right? Another way to write that is dominant, because we really hear this as a dominant chord, moving from a doubled octave to a 7th, a 6 to a 5, and then a 4 to a 3. Okay, so it is acceptable on the AP exam or in any other kind of notation, situation, to write this as a dominant event going from an 8-6-4 to a 7-5-3, or just a 6-4 to a 5-3. That's also fine. So that essentially is the cadential 6/4. And again, they can happen in any key, major or minor. You just have to adjust your accidentals. And also the placement of the 6/4 is important, because in this case, the 6/4 comes on a strong beat, right? And like we said, that's kind of the dissonant chord that resolves into the 5-3 that then resolves into a tonic. And we didn't resolve this, but if we wanted to resolve it, this is B flat. We could easily do, I didn't do another, I'm just going to squeeze it in. You know what? Let me do this. Let me erase these little things so you can see it there. I'll just squeeze it in here because we're going to go on to the next chord, but that's fine. So B flat, and we want the 7th to resolve. And remember, root position dominant 7th, almost all, if it's a complete dominant 7th, which ours is only going to resolve to an incomplete tonic. So leading tone goes up, like that. And then to avoid the parallels, we're going to go down to D here. And we've got a tripled root in our 1 chord. That's the correct resolution of a root position dominant 7th that's complete to a tonic chord, because the tonic chord has to be incomplete in order to avoid the parallels. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next cadential 6, or the next 6/4 chord, I should say. We're going to see a lot of cadential 6/4 chords. They are by far the most common. There's another one that's called a pedal 6/4. Pedal 6/4. Okay. And the pedal 6/4 is where basically this doubled 5th that we have remains on the bass. Well, it doesn't have to be in the bass, but most commonly in the bass. But the pedal kind of remains. And then we have a neighboring motion up above. So occasionally pedal 6/4 is called a neighboring 6/4. I'm just going to put N6/4. Well, that's incorrect. I'm not going to put an N because it's not a Neapolitan chord. Trying to write as small as I can on this little board. Neighboring 6/4. There, like that. Okay. So let's see here. Let's shift gears a tiny little bit and let's maybe go to G major. Why not? Okay. Just do some key variety here today. Okay. Now, unlike the cadential 6/4. The neighboring 6/4 does not have a hard and fast rule in terms of placement rhythmically. Okay, it can be on a strong beat, it can be on a weak beat, and most of the time it's going to end up being on a weak beat, you know, just the way that most common practice period music works. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Okay, so it can be on a strong beat. It's nice if we establish our tonality first and then move on. Okay. And in this particular instance, a pedal 6/4, you know, the cadential 6/4 had to be a 1/6/4. Pedal 6/4 can be many different things depending on what the pedal note is. So we could go from a 1 to a 4/6/4 and back to a 1. That's pretty common. We could go from a 5 to a 1/6/4 and back to a 5. We could go well, actually, those are the two. Those are the two. And since we did a 1/6/4 already with cadential, let's go ahead and do a 1/6/4 again here, just so you see what it looks like. But again, it can be a 4/6/4 as well. Okay, so it's very common for 4/6/4. Let's do this. Let's see here. Let's do a 5 going to a 1/6/4 and back to a 5. So the doubling is going to be the same as cadential 6/4. We have to double the fifth. Okay. So a 5 chord would be D, right? So let's just stack that D, A, put another D up here, and then the F. All right. And the nice thing about pedal 6/4s is it, because we keep this bass note stable. Okay, let's, you know, again, keep as much stable as we possibly can. So this is going to double here because our fifth of the 1/6/4 is going to be doubled. And then we're going to move everything else by step. So we just kind of come up here by step to fill out our 1 chord in G major, right? G, B, D. And we double the D, and then we're going to come back exactly the way that we were. That's why they're called neighboring 6/4s. So when we talk about neighbor notes, they go away by step and then they come right back, right? Go to your neighbor to borrow some sugar and then you come back to your house to bake. So that's a an example of a 5 to a 1/6/4 to a 5. Let's just try for a minute so you can see the difference going from a 1 to a 4/6/4. Running out of room. There we go. Going to a 1. Okay. So when we have a 1 chord, right? Let's just stick to G major for the sake of simplicity. We won't change keys right this very minute, right? There's our 1 chord. And we're going to double the root if we can. And then here's a D and here's a B, right? G, B, D is our 1 chord. 4 chord, right? Count up. G, A, B, C. So we're going to have a C, E, and a G. Okay. That means the G is on the bottom. We're going to double the G. We need a C. And we need an E. So again, here's just this neighbor motion, right? And we'll come right back down to 1. Keep the G doubled because that's the fifth. Well, the fifth of the 1/6/4, but the root, obviously, of the original chord, or sorry, 4/6/4. And so we, again, have this kind of neighbor motion going. So if I were to get my blue arrows going, right, that's a neighbor motion there. And that's a neighbor motion there. And then here, we happen to have it all in the upper voices, right? So both times our stable pedal was in the bass, but the doubled note can be in any of the voices. You could also have the neighbor motion in the inner voices, right? That would also work too, if that was your voicing. Okay, so that covers 2 of the 3 that I mentioned. Let me see if we can get another page here. Oh, not going to let me do another page. So I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this so we can keep using the whiteboard. Okay, so we got our cadential 6/4 and our pedal 6/4, and we're going to clean this up. So the next couple we're going to talk about, or the next big one, is a passing 6/4. And again, this can have a couple of different permutations where cadential 6/4 was a 1/6/4 and had to always be a 1/6/4 going to a 5. The passing 6/4 is a little bit more like our pedal 6/4, where it can take on a couple of different kind of permutations. Okay, so you could have a 1 going to 5/6/4, or you could have a 4/6 or a 4 going to a 1/6/4. So again, we're playing around with the 1 to 5 and the 4 to 1 because they have that common tone that we double. Okay, so let's write a couple of these out here. So in terms of passing 6/4, passing 6/4 chords, we can do 2 of these as well. So you see the difference between the 1 to the 4 and then 5 to the 1. What we're doing is we're basically linking a root position chord with its first inversion with a 6/4 chord, and the 6/4 chord passes between the two. So I'll tell you what, let's do one in major and one in minor because we haven't had any minor examples yet. Let's do F major. Okay. And let's do a 1. We're going to have our 6/4 chord in the middle, and then we're going to go to a 1/6. Okay. And this chord that's in the middle is going to end up being a 5/6/4. And we'll check that out as we kind of go through it here. So let's see, in a 1 chord, F, A, and C, let's just do F, and we can double the F there because of course we want to double the root. And then let's do a C and an A, like that. What we're going to want to do is eventually get to a 1/6 chord. Okay. And with the 1/6, we're going to still try to double the F. Okay, that's our goal, is to still double the root. Where we want to go with that, though, is going to kind of determine where our 1/6/4 goes. So let's see here. Okay. Right. So all I did was I wrote something called a voice exchange. And I'll put this in a different color because I know we were using blue just to look at the motion of the 6/4 chords, but let's just do orange. So where you had A here, A is now here. And where you had F here, F is now here. Okay, so we basically did this. A little voice exchange. Okay. Let's see, let me go back to black. And what we want to do is facilitate this voice exchange with a 6/4 chord. Okay. Now a 5 chord in F is going to be a C chord. Okay. And then of course, basically it's going to end up being that you're stepping in this inversion anyway, stepping from the 1 up to the 1/6, right? So we've got the 5/6/4 with the G in the bass, and then we're going to double the G up here. Okay, so again, you're facilitating this stepwise motion. And guess what? Most of what we have in the middle is going to be pretty bland, right? So we're going to keep that common tone, like the altos like to do. Just sorry, altos, you're going to be boring. And then we need an E instead of an F. And so we are going to just boop like that, neighbor note. So this 5/6/4 facilitates the voice exchange basically. between these two chords in the outer voices. And that's one of the defining characteristics of a passing 6/4 chord. Like I said, let's do one in, in minor. And we'll kind of get a sense of what that might mean. Now, of course, in minor, if we were doing a 5 chord in minor, we would have to make sure that we're raising the leading tone, right? Can't forget to do that. But if we're doing the 1 to the 4/6/4 in minor, there aren't going to be any alterations. So just so that we can see this, let's do a couple of these actually. I'll do 2 examples here for you. All right, so we're going to do, let's do one in G minor. Okay, we had B flat earlier, but oops. Go ahead and do, there we go, G minor. Okay, so let's just start with a 1. Let's go the opposite direction too. Let's go 1/6 because we can link them in any direction we want, right? Oops. So we're going to do B flat, a G. Let's do a D and then a B, or sorry, then another G because we want to double the root. All right, we're going to a 1. And obviously that's going to be down here. And our voice exchange is going to be up here. All right, we want to try to keep them the 5th even. And we'll come back to the tonic here as well. So in order to facilitate this, we're going to have stepwise motion here, stepwise motion here. And then this is going to end up being a 5/6/4. And in order to facilitate a functional dominant, right, a major dominant, we need a 3rd, the F sharp. So we have FAC, right? Or sorry, a DFA, wrong chord, DFA. So we have the F sharp here, and then the D stays the same here. Oops, this is not super clear up here. That should be an A. That's what I get for writing with a mouse there. Okay, so again, we've got, if I get my blue, we've got the voice exchange happening here and there, and our 5/6/4 in between. So that's what it might look like in minor. Just don't forget that, you know, minor has to facilitate a raised leading tone. Let's do a 1. Now let's go back to major for a minute. And, you know, we haven't done any sharps or a lot of sharps. Let's just do A major for a minute. FAC, or sorry, FCG. Keep saying FAC. Okay. All right. So A major. And let's do a 1 chord in A major. Right. Let's change it up. Put the 3rd here. And maybe the E and then the A. All right. And then we want to go to a 1/6 again, because these passing chords link the 2. So here's a C up here for that. Oops. There we go. And then the A, or sorry, the C that was here before is actually in the tenor. So that's going to come down. Okay. So we've got those 2 parts of the chord, and then we're going to try to keep doubling the root and keep the 5th in the same place. All right. So we just have the voice exchange in a different voice this time. We're going to end up with a 5/6/4 here again, because we're between tonic chords. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this voice exchange here. Right. Keeping the tonic. Or yeah, keeping the 5th and then moving this. There we go. Okay. So it can happen that, you know, our voice exchange is in different voices. There we go. you know, we didn't actually have an example of a 4/6/4, which we should. So let's do, I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'm going to erase this, keep the same key, but let's do F sharp minor. Ooh. And remember, in minor, when you're going between a 1 and a 4, you're not going to have any alterations because none of those notes need to be altered, none of those pitches. But let's just try this out. So, oops, sorry, stray mark. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a 1/6/4, or sorry, a 4/6, and we're going to go to a 4 this time. So we will have a 1/6/4 in between. Okay, but in F sharp minor, 4/6 is going to start on D, right? So B, D, and F. Let's see if we can space this out. So D, F, and we'll put B up above. And then we're going to go to a 4, basically, right? So we're down here at 4. Let's keep the B doubled. And then we want to do our voice exchange. Turns out the D is going to go in the tenor again, right? Because that's where the B was. So we have our voice exchange in the lower voices. And then the F, we're going to try to just keep the same. All right. So between these two chords, we're going to end up with a 1/6/4 passing through this voice exchange like that. And like that. Right, so we have the voice exchange there, trying to keep the F sharp stable, and then we move the B by step. So, and again, if we get our lines out here, this is our voice exchange. Okay, so that's that. So passing 6/4s often are on weak beats where we had, you know, cadential 6/4s have to be on strong beats, and then the pedal 6/4s could kind of be on either. Generally speaking, passing 6/4s are going to be on weak beats. It's not, you know, not uncommon to see them in both situations where you're going from a 1 to a 5 to 1/6 or opposite, or the 4 to a 1/6/4 to a 4/6, right, or the opposite. So, so these have a lot more, I guess, variety in that respect, but the formula is very, very, very stable. The other 6/4 chord is an arpeggiated 6/4. This happens an awful lot in keyboard writing. So I don't think you're going to see it in written form very frequently on the AP exam, but you may see it in the multiple choice section. So in terms of multiple choice, you know, your question might have something to do with, you know, what kind of 6/4 chord is this here? And then you'll have to, you know, identify it. Let me just show you quickly what an arpeggiated 6/4 looks like. And like I said, it's most frequently seen in keyboard writing. Not that you don't see it other places, but that's where I've seen them most. So let's see here. Let's just stick with C major. Just keep this simple. An arpeggiated 6/4 can be on any rhythmical beat, and it's almost always the 6/4 of the Roman numerals that are around it. Okay, so let's just say, for example, in C major, I wanted to write a 4 chord. Okay, that's easy enough, right? FAC. Now that one is FAC. Okay, and we are, oops, there. Okay, so we double the F because we're in the root position. I want to go kind of like a passing 6/4. I want to go to a 4/6. Okay. In between the 4/6, we're not going to do another voice exchange in the same respect that we've done with passing chords, right? These are the passing 6/4s on this side. Okay, this one is arpeggiating. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a 4/6/4 in between the root position in the first inversion. Okay, so we're basically arpeggiating up and around to get to the inverted chord. So going here, we're going to have a C, right? Double the C because the C is our fifth here. I don't know why this doesn't want to work. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to go F and A. So check out the voicing. We almost have a voice overlap. Okay. Same here, right? So we are literally like arpeggiating the top three voices here. So we're going there, there, there. All right. We're just kind of shifting the chord up. And that's an arpeggiated, that's a characteristic of an arpeggiated 6/4. And then coming back basically so that we can get to our 1/6, right? Or sorry, our 4/6. We're going to keep the C and we're going to keep the F. And then the A is just going to continue up so that we're doubling the right note here. Oops. Don't know what's happening to my writing tools. There we go. Okay, so we're still going to get a doubled root basically in the 4/6. We're just making this journey to the 4/6 a little bit more leapy for sure, but we're staying in the same tonality basically. We're kind of we can either think of this as prolonging the 4 chord or jumping a little early to the 4/6. It just happens that the inversion we reach is the 4/6/4 in between. But check out the bass. You see how it arpeggiates in the bass. That's another characteristic here of the arpeggiated 6/4. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a jump here, a jump start on, what 4/6/4 chords are, how they function, the fact that they are very different from the other counterparts, the root position in the first inversion. We have three main categories of them that we have to worry about for the AP exam anyway, which is going to be the cadential, the pedal, and the passing. And then arpeggiated 6/4s are also fairly common. You could see just by the way that they are arpeggiating that they involve a lot more leaps. And of course, we're trying to, be as stepwise as possible in our 4-voice writing, so they don't get used as much for us. But we do see them in keyboard playing a lot. And just remember the number one rule when it comes to writing 6/4 chords is that you always double the fifth. Okay. And that is always the base again of that chord. And then your voicing should fall into place from there.